What could you do to protect your pets if you're sick or injured? My product, Save My Pet ID tag, helps you ensure that your beloved pets are safe and well cared for, even when life isn't what you expect.
For more than 3 decades, our special guest today has been on a mission to bring out the healthy best in dogs and cats. And she has some pretty cool ways to do it. I want you at this time to give pause and applause to the very renowned holistic veterinarian. She's known as the Holistic Pet Health Coach. Please welcome to our show, Dr. Ruth Roberts. Welcome to our show, Dr. Ruth.
Arden, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to share with your audience.
I don't know if you have the actual stats, but we're in the numbers of thousands, right, of people that are both pet professionals and pet parents that you want to give good, solid knowledge so that they can help their pets. That sounds like quite a mission.
It is, and it's born out of necessity. I think my veterinary colleagues are way up to here with what they can handle on a daily basis. And the other thing that we're realizing, both for ourselves and for our pets, is that going to the doctor and acting on their their advice is sort of the lagging indicator, if you will. Yeah. What we really need to do is develop an attitude towards wellness and make that the indicator of how to adjust, how to move forward. And that's my goal. That's where pet parents and pet pros can really shine, because they are seeing our pets on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. They see the changes happening long before you will, and certainly before you will take your dog or your cat to the vet.
So you began this journey as in a traditional manner, right? You went to North Carolina State. Tell us about that. Why did you want to become a veterinarian?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm old enough. I grew up in the age of James Herriot, right? Where the veterinarian was the person that, had the calm, the aplomb. They were able to help the animal get out of trouble, heal that animal, and send them packing on their way to live another day. Mm-hmm. And so that really was what I wanted to do. Was there anybody else in your family that had ever been a veterinarian? No, I'm the only person in healthcare in my whole family. So my 2 career choices were in classical singing or in veterinary medicine. And I decided I'd rather help pets.
And sing about it. Sing the praises.
And sing about it. Yeah. So there'll be a musical coming out soon, right?
Really? What was your...
So at the age of 12...
What type of music?
Really, so classical singing, so Baroque songs, choral music, that sort of stuff. I learned how to play guitar, sang a lot of blues, a lot of folk music, wrote a little bit of music when I was younger. So kind of a mix of things.
But you picked the veterinary path.
Yeah.
Okay. So
or help.
You get your traditional DVM, but everybody, if you look at her name afterwards, there is CBA, CBCH, CBFT, NAN. You got alphabet soup after your name because you sound like you're continuing your schooling as you're being an educator.
That's right. And so what I realized in about 2008, I was sick. I had my best buddy, Arnold, had lived to be 17, and he was still here. He still wanted to go, but his body couldn't carry him any longer. And I made a promise to him that I would find a different way that offered things that did more than palliate, that helped to build, that helped to nourish. And so I started studying traditional Chinese veterinary medicine in 2005 and went down that path. And that's where most of the alphabet soup came from.
And tell people, what does that mean? And so I like East meets West. I guess I'm a Libra. I like both sides. But I'm just saying, did you find it was a challenge to also adapt to Eastern medicine?
It hurt. It was because it's a completely different system of medicine. Mm-hmm. Trying to overlay Eastern medicine on top of what I understood in Western conventional medicine didn't work. And so what I finally had to do was let go of what I knew and just begin to understand Chinese medicine in terms of energetic parallels to the physiologic organs, if that makes some sense.
Yeah,
And
the body, the mind,
and then from
everything's
there,
feeding off each other, right?
right, exactly. And that's it. I mean, we know the Heart Math Institute has done some beautiful work in people showing that we project an electromagnetic field 15 feet around us emanating from our hearts. And so
Wow.
what's not to believe that all mammals are not doing that? And that's really at the level that Chinese medicine was working.
So you go on to get certificates, acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine. I don't know what food therapy means in that regard.
Literally using food as a way to support a disease or a condition.
Give me an example.
Well, for instance, in China, and will sound a little Chinesey to you, but in Chinese medicine, the spleen with a capital S is considered to be the organ of digestion and assimilation. And so if we have something called spleen qi deficiency, a deficiency of the energy in the spleen, then there are foods that we can feed that will warm the spleen, make it easier for it to do its job, and over a longer trajectory, help heal the spleen, the digestive process, and keep it happy and healthy going forward in that animal or that person's life.
So what would be an example of a good nutrient for the spleen?
So, for instance, chicken, lamb, these are warming proteins. The spleen always needs to be warmed up, right? So this is where it kind of gets interesting because we get into the food sensitivity issues, but those are great. Orange colored vegetables are very nourishing and warming. So if you think about what you would put into a winter stew, a lamb stew, for instance, that's essentially a perfect meal to tonify spleen qi.
Spleen splendor. And I want people to know, we're kind of talking food. We're going to have a lot of fun with Dr. Ruth Roberts, because we're going to talk about cats. We're going to talk about dogs on this episode. We're also going to say, move over, Betty Crocker, because you also have an original Croc Pet diet book. I said it right, right?
You got it.
Okay, so
that's
sounding the thing. Like a stew to me. Can you tell people when did the original Croc Pet diet book come out? And now it's in e-forms.
Exactly. So the recipe itself was born in 2006, right before the very first pet food recall.
Oh,
so this
salmonella.
initial, the melamine in the pet food that killed thousands of pets and sickened many of them as well. So people started. I literally, bam, in less than 30 days, had 1,000 people feeding this diet. And I was terrified because, as a veterinarian, I'm talking, everything must be complete and balanced for all life stages according to AAFCO standards. You can do that with a homemade diet. It is possible. But what I saw was astonishing. I saw dogs that had had diarrhea for years stop having diarrhea. Cats that were itching, stop itching. And so all of these health benefits were showing up simply because people did not know what to feed during this thing. Do you remember that nightmare of a time?
I do, and you're going to laugh. I have it right here. Hang on.
Yes.
One of my many books I wrote was called Real Food for Dogs, and I'm not tooting my horn. The only reason I bring that out is when this book came out and then the melamine crisis came out, it was the 5th best-selling book behind a kid named Harry Potter. But
wow.
I had Dr. Rebecca Remillard, who was then the president of the American Academy of Veterinary Nutrition, review every recipe. And so I am not in your league, but it was timing, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
And you did the right thing. I mean, and that's what I did as well. I sought the services of a boarded veterinary nutritionist to help make sure I was doing the right thing as well. And so there's amazing other options out there now, but this is sort of back in the dark ages before some of the software had come of age.
Hey, Pet Pals, we're speaking with Dr. Ruth Roberts. She's a holistic veterinarian. We're going to get into her website and some more food tips for cats and dogs and a little bit about things that can help us help our pets. But we got to pay for this show and by taking a quick break. So you know the drill. Sit, stay. We'll be right back.
Hey, have you heard? Four-Legged Life has a new digital newsletter. Here, let me show you how you get yourself subscribed. So you just type in Four-Legged Life, and that'll take you to the website. There we go. And this magic thing just appears, and you type in your email address. I'll use, let's see, how about coolestdogever@gmail.com. That's me. And then you just click on this thing here. There you go. It's the new digital newsletter from Four-Legged Life. Get subscribed today.
We're speaking with Dr. Ruth Roberts. And before we continue, tell people how they can find things out about you, because you teach courses. You've created a line of supplements and products. You are the go-to gal to help bring out our pets' best health. How can people find out more about you?
Super easy. drruthroberts.com.
Why'd you make it so darn easy?
Oh, I like easy. Easy is good.
So I know you always hear people say, oh, they go to vet school and there's like 1 or 2 classes in nutrition. That's what I used to hear. Is it getting any better? Or, I mean, because obviously you saw the void that needed to be filled with being able to meet Eastern medicine with Western medicine to bring out the best in our pets. But it's 2025. What's the deal with veterinarians and their knowledge of nutrition?
I think it has not changed very much. I think what did change is literally when I was school, I finished in 1990. Mm-hmm. The textbook of veterinary clinical nutrition was Hill's textbook of veterinary clinical nutrition.
Okay.
And so that tells you they finally had to pull the name off because other companies came in with money. And so they had to kind of share the wealth. So it hasn't changed, sadly. I think that large animal veterinarians, and it depends. With some vet schools, you train in both tracks. Some you just train small animal or large animal. But large animal veterinarians get a better understanding of the importance of micronutrients and along with macronutrients. And so they understand a bit better about how minerals and supplements and vitamins work in the body, but their goal is to help make that beef cow get to market 3 days faster. So it's kind of it is what it is. In small animal veterinary medicine, I think that we tend to focus on some of those basics about nutrition, but not really understanding macronutrients, how proteins, fats, and carbohydrates operate within the body, which species are those appropriate for, and in what ratios, that kind of thing. That and basic information
it has
isn't being provided.
With pet food and pet treat products. We have 3 cats and 2 dogs, and I get to talk. I was the columnist for Dogster and Catster, nutrition columnist for over 10 years. I was talking to people like you with the Vanna White initials after your names because, you have that specialty. And people need way to go. I know there's Balance It and other companies and petdiets.com. But tell us a little bit about your site and why it might help some people out.
So when I started developing the original Crock Pet diet, I'm asking people, I come from a family of punsters.
Good.
But the problem is that people don't cook for themselves anymore. And since that diet came into existence, that part has gotten worse. And so literally I'm speaking to people that don't know how to boil an egg. And how can I make this easy and make it simple for them to carry off on a weekly basis? And so that's part of the idea of using the slow cooker is that, I'm a lazy cook, but I can get a pot full of food prepped in less than 15 minutes. And at one point we had, my little buddy has to come visit. At one point,
who he is.
This is Hayo.
And he's
our traveling companion.
Poodle. Okay.
Hayo the silver poodle. Hayo silver. But that was the thing that was, what can I do to make this stick so that it's not, I'll try this and then how it's too hard, I'm not doing it. And so by being able to cook in a batch of food, then people are able to carry this out more consistently. And they put 2 or 3 batches out in the dog and then run out. And the dog is like, I am not eating that anymore. Or the cat's like, absolutely not. Yeah. So it became abundantly clear to them very quickly what was working for their pets. And that became the impetus to keep going. So at one point, I had 5 dogs and 5 cats. And in 4 hours on a Sunday, once a month, I could knock out food for the month because you can freeze this.
So tell us if you want it. I know it's like KFC's secret recipe, but do you want to mention some of the things that are in the Crock Pet recipe?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's animal proteins. So beef, pork, chicken, whatever it is that works well for your dog and whatever is sort of on sale that week. Brassica vegetables. So things like broccoli, kale, bok choy, and then other vegetables, green beans, spinach, that kind of good stuff, carrots, squashes. And then depending on what your dog or cat is suited for, you can use whole grains. You can use legumes or beans. And I think what that does is provide really high quality nutrition, and it helps keep the recipe affordable.
But also supplements sometimes, right? But it's an individual situation, right?
So the one supplement or the two that are consistent across all the recipes are calcium, because we do need to balance the calcium phosphorus ratio in the proteins. And then kelp we'll use as a source of iodine. And you can use iodized salt. It just depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with all the scary toxic things in the world. And then I do recommend using a supplement, a multivitamin and mineral, to make sure that the diet is complete and balanced for all life stages according to AAFCO standards. And so utilizing software, I can create templated recipes that give you the choice over what protein you're using, what vegetables you're using. And by using a supplement to balance it out, then you're able to make sure that you're staying within those AAFCO guidelines.
That makes my brain hurt.
It made mine hurt too, doing the math. It was like, ouch.
But you're sharing this, and people can take your courses, online. Talk about that, because it's one thing to learn Eastern medicine and be a veterinarian. It's another thing to teach it and to make it reach people who need to know it. And you can't transport yourself, to everybody face to face. So tell us about your courses and how this is helping, these online courses.
Right on. So, we've got our flagship course is the original Crock Pet Diet course. And it's the ebook plus recipes plus cooking videos, because as I said, a lot of folks just are not familiar with cooking. So it's like, here's how easy it is. And
how long is this course? How long does it go for? Is it?
It takes so it's a recorded course, and I think the materials, the videos in there are maybe an hour and a half, something like that. And then there's a bunch of pre-designed recipes along with the ebook. And then we have a support community online as well. And then that goes all the way up to the Holistic Pet Health Coach Certification Program. And honestly, this is my life's work. I am so honored that it was approved for 40 continuing education credits for both veterinarians and veterinary technicians by the RACE board. So they work with the American Board of Veterinary State Boards to accredit programs for continuing education. Now, the fascinating thing is that the majority of people that have taken the course are pet pros, groomers, dog walkers, pet sitters, dog trainers. And the reason is they see on a daily or weekly basis the changes that your dog is going through or your cat is going through in terms of pet sitters. They see them go from healthy 2-year-old animals to looking sick and tired at 4 to 6. And they are the ones that are like, what can I do to help these guys? And so that's what the course is designed.
They're the front line for our pets' health.
They are. And they are the ones that when they tell you something about your pet, pay attention, because they are seeing the changes much more quickly than we will. And certainly by the time, if you're taking your dog to the vet or your cat to the vet every year, every 6 months, they're not going to see those subtle changes that are early indicators of health So
you have a variety of programs. You've got the Crock Pet where they can just learn how to make a recipe, all the way up to being a certified holistic pet health coach, right?
That's exactly it.
Wow.
And it's a 4-month program, and it is not for the faint of heart, but we teach traditional Chinese medicine, functional medicine, how to use the crock-pot diet, how to manipulate food to support an individual's pet's health concerns, and then teach them how to convey this information to pet parents. And I think that's what's most critical is we can learn things, but until we learn how to teach others these things, that's where we really become effective and a big resource for people.
I got you.
But it's,
so we're speaking with Dr. Ruth Roberts. She is a major holistic pet health coach. She's got a DVM after her name and a bunch of other in Eastern medicine. And she's here for us. She's here for our pets. And we're going to dive in a little bit more about situations involving cats and dogs after we take this break. So stay. We'll be right back.
This is Janice Cobb of Save My Pet ID Tag. Engraved with your pet's info, they allow emergency personnel to start care for your pets if you're sick or injured. Head over to SaveMyPetIDTag.com and explore our products. They ensure peace of mind for you and for your four-legged family.
Welcome back to the Four-Legged Life Show. I'm your host, Arden Moore. I'm talking with Dr. Ruth Roberts. I love her. She's a good lady. You can feel the heart. You can feel the empathy, but you can see and feel the brains coming out of her because it's one thing to have empathy and want to help a pet, but it's another to be able to do the science behind it, right?
That's the whole thing. And that's my goal, is to give average people access to the science so that they can make better informed decisions.
So let's dive into Cats for 200, Dr. Ruth. Okay, they are both a prey and a predator. They are such a unique species. They are not little dogs. So we just lost our cat, Mikey, who lived to be 20 and a half years old. And he spent first couple years on the streets as a community cat. We brought him in, ear tipped and all. I mean, talk about his middle name should have been Methuselah. But we were putting some supplements. We make bone broth with no salt in a crock pot. So tell us about how we can help our cats to be the healthy they can be. And I'm speaking more the indoor cats.
Right on. I mean, step number one, honestly, and this is the hardest step, is getting cats off of kibble.
Oh, yeah.
That is the worst thing we've ever done to cats.
And tell us
why.
Desert.
Yeah, because they're desert creatures. And so we are taking these desert creatures with a very delicate fluid balance and feeding them food that they love, but is very dehydrating. And so then we wonder, why do these guys have so much bladder disease? Why do they have so much kidney disease? And this is why.
So what should they be eating? And what kind of supplements should they be getting?
Right on. And that's it. I mean, I think if we can get them, and this is where cats are cats and they're going to make their own decisions, no matter how much we might want them to make other choices. Mm-hmm. But the first thing is, if you're feeding kibble, transition to canned food. If you've got a young cat, they're much more flexible in what they will eat. They really probably should be eating mouse in a can, but that idea went by the wayside, I think, about 20 years ago. Somebody got close to bringing it to market, but the ick factor was too high.
Okay.
So then cooked or raw. I mean, this is a species that probably should be eating a raw diet. However, most cats are like, no. So it just depends on where you can get with these guys. So a raw diet that's balanced, cooked diet with no carbohydrates, starchy carbohydrates added, because that's kind of one of the other things we've done is turn them into carb addicts. And then,
well, we're chip addicts, potato chip addicts. So our cats are now carb addicts, right?
Exactly. And then this increases their chances of developing diabetes. So there's all these things that we can avoid in cats simply by feeding them what's appropriate for them to eat.
Now, I've been told by veterinary nutritionists that you should introduce a varied protein and other diet to cats? Because everybody says they're finicky, but I don't know if that's a real fair statement to make to cats, because we are creatures of habits, and we have a tendency to just feed them the same brand over and over and over again. So what's the importance of introducing variety of proteins and other foods to a cat?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is it gives them the flexibility to enjoy other things. And just like us, if think about 5-year-old kids, trying to get them to eat something other than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
If you say to your kid, okay, you got to take a no thank you bite of whatever this is on your plate, they're trying it and they're like, no, maybe this isn't so bad after all. The other thing that's really critical is that if we eat the same thing day in and day out, whether we're a cat, a dog, a person, any mammals, we are creating a possible issue within our gut because, and most of us are exposed to a myriad of chemicals and other toxins in the world. This can lead to the development of dysbiosis or leaky gut or intestinal permeability, however you want to call it. When we eat the same thing day in and day out, our immune system is exposed to pieces of food that shouldn't be reaching it, but do because of this leaky gut. Right. And then we develop antibodies against the food. And then we start to develop antibodies against tissues in our bodies, in the cat's body, that are similar to the food.
And how does that manifest in
everywhere? Right. So it can be skin, it can be gut, it can be kidney, it can be asthma, it can be insulin resistance, so diabetes. I mean, it's just all over the place. So all of these chronic diseases we're fighting, their underlying mechanism is inflammation. And often inflammation starts with dysbiosis or leaky gut.
I know on your site, drruthroberts.com, you actually have some supplements for cats, right?
Right.
So I know what you're saying is so true. The kidneys, as they get older, is always, and I'm doing my best with pet fountains and water in different locations and making sure they have access to it. So far so good with our 3 cats. Then our late great Mikey was pretty good water drinker. Water's very important, isn't it?
It's critical. And that's the thing. I mean, you're doing an amazing job and you're feeding a lot of fresh food. There was a study probably 20 years ago looking at lower urinary tract disease in cats. And what they did is look at cats that were fed kibble versus cats that were fed canned food. They compared how much water the 2 groups drank and then how much urine each group made.
Oh.
And so what they found, the long and the short of it is that the cats that were eating dry food drank twice as much water as the cats eating canned food, but had half the urine output. Yeah. So that's the ball game right there.
That is.
And that's why it's so critical to move away from kibble.
You also, you're into mushrooms, and I'm not saying psychedelic mushrooms. Shout out to Dr. Rob Silver. He's been a guest on our show a couple times. He's a colleague, friend of yours, I guess. But yes. Isn't there a certain type of mushroom, I think turkey tail, that's good for cats?
There are a myriad of mushrooms that are good for cats. And Dr. Rob is a brilliant mind, and he has just a huge wealth of information. So I'm glad that he's been able to share that with you. Turkey tail is a mushroom that's often used for cancer, for kidney health. But it's interesting because ultimately, if you went with a very basic formula that's geared towards immune support, so things like reishi, shiitake, turkey tail, cordyceps, that kind of thing, yeah, that's a great way to support overall health. And the other thing that's really interesting is that mushrooms contain specific molecules that really help gut health to thrive. So you kind of get a twofer. You get this great impact on improving overall immune function, supporting different organs and especially the kidneys, but also improving gut health at the same time.
That's great. So any parting message for all our meowvelous cat people out there on a tip or two about what they can do to keep their cat healthy and when they need to know that there's a deficiency?
Right on. And I think most of our kitties, the big things we worry about are taurine deficiency, especially if you're doing home cooked food. So making sure you have adequate amounts of taurine in the food. We learned that lesson in the exactly. We learned that lesson in the early 80s with an epidemic of degenerative myelopathy. So that is a really critical nutrient to make sure your kitties are getting, and making sure they're getting whatever you can do to get more water into them, and making sure they exercise. Because just like us, if we're not moving, we're losing flow, and the kidneys are one of the top 3 organs receiving blood flow with every heartbeat. So if they're exercising, they get more blood flow to the kidneys.
I like it. I mean, I just mailed a bunch of packages, and you have that little plastic strip on these little, 8.5 by 11. I hold it up and make it like a snake, and my orange cat, Rusty, plays with it as a toy. He's jumping up and down like a pogo stick. And I'm like, okay, kitty aerobics for free.
Exactly.
All right.
Good stuff.
Hey, we're going to dive into dogs with Dr. Ruth Roberts after we take this break. So this time we're going to sit and purr, and we'll be right back.
Hey, have you heard? Four-Legged Life has a new digital newsletter. Here, let me show you how you get yourself subscribed. So you just type in Four-Legged Life, and that'll take you to the website. There we go. And this magic thing just appears, and you type in your email address. I'll use, let's see, how about coolestdogever@gmail.com. That's me. And then you just click on this thing here. There you go. It's the new digital newsletter from Four-Legged Life. Get subscribed today.
I am honored to have Dr. Ruth Roberts on our show. She is known as the Holistic Pet Health Coach. I want you to check out her site at drruthroberts.com. On there, you will find some healthy supplements that she has created. There's an amazing blog. She has some good food tips and also courses, because knowledge is power. What kind of people tend to take your classes to help dogs, Dr. Ruth?
I think the majority of them are looking for a different way and looking for a sustainable way to be able to help their dogs long term. And from there, they get frustrated with, here's the bag of prescription diet that's not working. And so they start looking for other options. And then, I am one of many solutions, but I think it's a very easy solution to carry off.
Let's talk about conditions that irritate the human. You got a dog with what? Itchy skin. There could be a myriad reasons for the itchy skin, right? How do you kind of have nutrition help be a solution?
And this is kind of like we can, there's probably 30 or 40 different diagnoses that your vet can say, your dog has inflammatory interdigital cysts, and that's a skin condition. But ultimately, if we use functional medicine as a tool and look at systems of function rather than just the body system, we come back to this idea that there's just a few underlying mechanisms in every chronic disease. One of them is inflammation. The next is detoxification, the body's ability to get rid of toxic substances. And the third is digestion and assimilation. And so if I told you that the gut is lined with epithelial cells, and in the situation where dysbiosis or inflammatory situations have arisen there, leaky gut, what have you, guess what else is lined with epithelial cells? And that's the skin.
Organs. Yeah, the skin.
Yeah.
Which is the largest organ on the body.
Exactly. And so in the situation where we have leaky gut, part of what the body is learning to react to are those intestinal epithelial cells. The problem comes in when it transfers that knowledge to the skin. And so we start to see the anal glands filling up, the ear infections, they keep coming back, the infection between the toes, the scratching, the itching, the hot spots, all of that stuff. And all of that starts with dysbiosis or gut problems.
You did the triad. You said inflammation, detoxification, and getting the digestive system better. But So these systems are getting nailed, which is where Eastern medicine is like being championed.
Exactly. And functional medicine. So, it's again, two different systems of medicine, but they do agree that digestion is the most important place to start. And so that's where with skin problems, we can use Chinese herbal formulas that will help calm down the itch. But ultimately, we're back to supporting the spleen qi, and we're back to taking the edge off of other organs like the liver that tends to beat up on the spleen in Chinese medicine, so that we bring the body back into harmony. Same concepts with functional medicine. This is where we learned, if we use high doses of omega-3 fatty acids, we can calm down that level of inflammation. If we use probiotics, we can help support the gut going back to more balance. If we use other things like liver support, so milk thistle, something simple like that, then we can help improve the body's ability to detoxify. So really, we can take a very multimodal approach to solving any condition.
So what is the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic for a pet? And can't they be used sometimes together?
Absolutely. And there are postbiotics as well.
I'm laughing because I'm drinking a probiotic drink right now.
Right on. So prebiotics are fibers that feed the biome, the life, right? So that can be anything from a turnip to a processed fiber like galactoligosaccharides.
I love it when you say those big words.
And they just roll off.
I know.
So, and you'll see GOS, and that's a whole lot easier to say. So that's an engineered fiber, but it does feed a very specific family of bacteria that we want to be healthy and be dominant in the microbiome. And so plant fibers are a great way to do this. And then this whole idea of eating the rainbow, the polyphenols are the rainbow. And the rainbow is not for us, it's for our microbiome. So all those colors are specific prebiotic types of fibers and things of that nature. They're going to feed the probiotic organisms. And that's exactly what they are. They are pro-life.
I like
so
that.
They are the healthy organisms in our gut that we want to dominate to keep everything in balance. And so we went through this whole thing of good bugs, bad bugs, and kill all the bad bugs. That will knock out the balance just as badly as taking a round of antibiotics. So it is this, and this is kind of that Chinese idea of harmony rather than domination. And that's really what's critical here. And then postbiotics are things like if you grew up eating sauerkraut, you're eating postbiotics as well as probiotics and prebiotics. And they are literally compounds that are made from the dead bugs that actually enrich that community of bacterial organisms.
So I guess it's a good thing my little Emma, my Gemma, who's a whopping 9 pounds, loves carrots, loves watermelon, loves broccoli, and loves green beans.
She's a rainbow kind of girl.
She is. She'll probably live to be like 39. So we just got about a minute left, and I wanted to ask you, where are we heading in the next 5 years? What are some things that you see? Hopefully, I'm an optimist, and I'm hoping you are too, for our pets.
I am an optimist. So it has never been easier for the average pet parent to do a much better job and to take back the responsibility for being the guide for their pet's health. The other thing that I'm bringing to the table with the holistic pet health coaches is that your veterinarian is a really, really important resource. I mean, if you've got an emergent situation,
right,
that is the best place to be. But they are so darn busy, they do not have the time to help you understand some of these concepts. Like, how can I help my cat live to be 23? And so what are the things I need to do when she is 6 to make sure that she has a very healthy long life?
Right.
And same thing for our dogs. And that's really On the human side, they call that lifestyle medicine. And indeed, that's what it is. And my goal is to help people learn how to improve their pet's health span along with their lifespan. And I think that's a concept that gets lost in the shuffle in conventional medicine.
I think that was said beautifully. I so appreciate you, Dr. Ruth Roberts, for being a guest on our show. And I wanted to dedicate this entire episode to you because you have a lot of knowledge. Knowledge is power. Everyone, please check out drruthroberts.com. Check out her crock pet diet. She's on social media. And you know what? Maybe just show how much you love your dog or cat by taking one of her courses.
That would be
nice.
wonderful.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content. Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life.